My son spat in my face while his wife laughed and filmed it. I'm William Harrison. I'm 62 years old, and that moment destroyed my family forever. 25 relatives watched my own flesh and blood humiliate me at our Memorial Day barbecue. Ashley, my daughter in law, was recording everything for her Instagram followers. "This is perfect content," she squealed as saliva dripped down my cheek. I didn't scream, didn't fight back. I wiped my face with my handkerchief and walked to my car. Brandon and Ashley had no idea what they'd just triggered. You see, my son thinks I'm a washed up old man who runs a tiny tech company. His wife thinks I'm an embarrassment to their social circle. For years, I let them believe that lie because I wanted Brandon to earn respect, not inherit it. By dawn the next morning, everything they thought they owned had vanished. The house, the cars, the country club membership, all gone. Because what they didn't know is that I built a $400 million empire, and I was about to teach them the most expensive lesson of their lives. If this story grabs you, hit subscribe. I'd love to know where you're watching from because this gets much worse before it gets better. Here's exactly how one moment of disrespect cost my son everything he thought was his. Let me take you back 6 months before that terrible Memorial Day weekend. The signs were everywhere, but I chose to ignore them like a fool. It started small, the way disrespect always does. At Brandon's office Christmas party in December, I watched him introduce me to his colleagues from business school. "This is my dad. He runs a small tech business downtown." Small tech business. 27 years building Harris Tech Industries from my garage in Richardson, Texas. And that's how he saw my life's work. His wife Ashley was worse. During family dinners at their house, the house I'd provided the down payment for, she'd roll her eyes whenever I spoke. She'd whisper to Brandon, loud enough for me to hear, "Your dad's so old school. Doesn't he know nobody talks like that anymore? It's embarrassing." The country club was the worst part. I'd paid for their membership, $15,000 annually at Preston Trail Golf Club. But when we'd show up for dinner, Ashley would cringe when I wore my work clothes. Khaki pants and a polo shirt, clean but not designer. "Bill," she'd say, looking at my outfit like I'd shown up naked, "maybe you should change before we go inside. People might get the wrong impression about our family." Wrong impression. About the man who built everything they enjoyed. The professional disrespect cut deeper. Brandon started making major decisions without consulting me. Big, expensive decisions that affected our company's future. In February, he hired 3 new senior developers at Harris Tech, added them to our payroll at $85,000 each, plus benefits. When I questioned the hiring spree, he laughed. "Dad, trust me. I have an MBA from SMU. You dropped out of community college to start this company." That comment stung for days. Yes, I dropped out of community college, but not because I was failing. I dropped out because I'd identified a gap in enterprise software solutions and started coding 18 hours a day in my garage. I dropped out to build what became his inheritance. The breaking point should have been Easter Sunday. We were at their house, the house with the granite countertops Ashley posted about constantly on Instagram. Brandon was showing off to his MBA friends, talking about his success and his innovative vision for the company. When someone asked about Harris Tech's founding story, Brandon said, "My dad helped out in the early days, did some of the original coding. I helped out. In the early days, I'd built a $420 million company. I employed 3,200 people across 4 states. Our contracts with the Department of Defense kept critical government systems running. But to my son, I was just dad who helped out with some coding." Ashley's Instagram obsession made everything worse. She posted constantly about their lifestyle. Pictures of their BMW X5 gleaming in the driveway, their granite kitchen countertops, weekend trips to Napa Valley wineries, designer handbags that cost more than most people's monthly mortgage. Never once mentioning how they could afford any of it. To her 12,000 followers, they were self-made success stories living the American dream. The comments on her posts made my stomach turn. "You guys are so blessed. Living the dream. Goals? How do you afford all this on one salary?" Ashley would respond, "Hard work pays off. My husband is brilliant at business, and all built on my foundation. all funded by my sacrifice, all possible because of decisions I'd made before Brandon was born. But I stayed quiet. I told myself this was normal. Young couples finding their independence, growing pains. Every generation thinks they invented success. The financial bleeding was getting serious by April. Brandon's company credit card bills were astronomical. $3,800 at high-end restaurants in 1 month. $12,000 for Ashley's shopping sprees at North Park Center. $6,000 for weekend getaways they documented extensively online. I should have set boundaries then. Should have explained that respect isn't optional in families. Should have taught him that gratitude isn't weakness. Instead, I waited. I enabled. I hoped he'd mature naturally. That patience nearly cost me everything. More importantly, it was teaching Brandon that actions don't have consequences, that family hierarchy means nothing, that the people who sacrifice for your success deserve no recognition. The worst part wasn't the money or the disrespect. The worst part was watching my son become someone I wouldn't want to know if he wasn't my child. Entitled, dismissive, cruel to the people who loved him most. By Memorial Day weekend, I'd become a stranger in my own family story. The founder reduced to a footnote. The father treated like an embarrassment. Brandon had no idea what he was about to lose. Ashley had no idea who she was actually mocking. And I had no idea how dramatically everything was about to change. The Memorial Day weekend was 3 weeks away, and I was about to discover exactly how much disrespect I was willing to tolerate. By April 2024, I realized that staying quiet wasn't just hurting my relationship with Brandon. It was destroying everything I'd worked 30 years to build, and teaching terrible lessons to everyone watching. The financial bleeding was getting serious, but money wasn't the real problem. The real problem was what I was teaching my son about respect, consequences, and character. Every time I said nothing when Ashley disrespected me at family gatherings, I was telling her it was acceptable behavior. Every time I ignored Brandon's dismissive comments about my little company, I was enabling his entitled worldview. Every time I absorbed their mockery without response, I was proving that kindness equals weakness. Worse, the disrespect was spreading through our extended family like a virus. My younger nephew, Jake, Greg's son, started copying Brandon's attitude at family events. At my brother Greg's birthday party in March, Jake made a joke about me being the old guy who still thinks email is cutting-edge technology. Everyone laughed. Brandon laughed the loudest. The joke stung because it wasn't just disrespectful. It was ignorant. Harris Tech had been developing cloud-based enterprise solutions since 2019. We held patents on cybersecurity protocols that protected government databases. But to my nephew, influenced by Brandon's narrative, I was just a relic. The business consequences were becoming serious. Brandon had started making promises to clients without checking our technical capabilities or delivery timelines. He'd committed us to 3 major projects we couldn't possibly deliver on schedule. When I tried to address these overcommitments in our Monday staff meetings, he'd interrupt. "Dad, maybe it's time you stepped back and let me handle client relations. I speak their language." Step back. From the company I'd built from nothing. I was losing respect and authority across every aspect of my life. My own employees started going to Brandon instead of me for final decisions on projects. Suppliers began calling him directly about delivery schedules and contract modifications. At industry conferences, people would introduce themselves to him first, then acknowledge me as an afterthought, if at all. The generational damage was the most heartbreaking part. My brother Greg pulled me aside after that birthday party where Jake had mocked me. "Bill," he said, his voice heavy with concern, "you need to handle this situation with Brandon. He's teaching his future kids and influencing my son that it's acceptable to disrespect their elders. That success means nothing if you're over 50. Future kids, my potential grandchildren, learning from Brandon's example that family hierarchy meant nothing. That sacrifice earned no respect. That age brought no wisdom worth hearing. That the people who built your opportunities deserved mockery, not gratitude. I lay awake at night calculating the true cost of my silence. If I continued enabling Brandon's behavior, he would inherit everything without learning its value. Ashley would never understand the decades of sacrifice behind their comfortable lifestyle. My legacy would be raising a son who was ashamed of his father's life work. The worst realization hit me during a late night drive through Richardson in April. I was passing the site where I'd started Harris Tech in 1997, a small office park that's now luxury condos. I remembered the early days, working 18-hour shifts, eating ramen noodles for dinner, sleeping on a cot in the office when deadlines loomed, all so Brandon could have opportunities I never had. I was enabling Brandon to become someone I wouldn't want to know if he wasn't my son. Entitled, dismissive, cruel to people who couldn't fight back. A man who measured success only in material possessions and social media validation. The community impact was spreading too. At Preston Trail Golf Club, other members had started treating me differently after witnessing Ashley's public dismissals. I overheard conversations about the old guy whose son runs the real business now. My reputation, built over decades of honest dealing and community service, was being eroded by my own child's narrative. The professional stakes were enormous. Harris Tech Industries wasn't just my company. We employed 3,200 people who depended on consistent leadership and clear decision-making. Brandon's freelance approach to client commitments was putting contracts at risk. His dismissive attitude toward our senior engineers was causing turnover in critical departments. If I didn't establish boundaries soon, Brandon would inherit a damaged company, a fractured family, and a character that would make him miserable regardless of his material success. The personal stakes were even higher. I was teaching Brandon that love means accepting abuse. That family means nothing. That building something remarkable earns you nothing but contempt from the people who benefit most. I was 62 years old. I'd built something extraordinary from nothing. I'd provided opportunities for thousands of employees and set my son up for a lifetime of success. But I was being treated like a burden, an embarrassment, an old fool who didn't understand the modern world. The final realization came during a sleepless night in late April. I wasn't just losing my son's respect. I was losing my own self-respect by tolerating the intolerable. Something had to change. Someone had to draw a line. Someone had to show Brandon that actions have consequences, that respect isn't optional, and that family love has limits. I just didn't know it would happen so dramatically, so publicly, and so soon. Memorial Day weekend was 4 weeks away, and everything I thought I knew about my family was about to explode. Memorial Day weekend arrived with perfect Texas weather. 82 degrees, clear skies, gentle breeze from the south. Brandon had invited the whole extended Harrison family to his house for our annual reunion. 25 people expected. My brother Greg and his wife Susan, their kids Jake and Emma, my sister Linda from Austin with her family, Ashley's parents driving up from Houston, plus several of Brandon's MBA friends from SMU. I drove over in my Toyota Camry at exactly 2 p.m. Same reliable car I'd driven for 8 years. Still ran perfectly, still got excellent gas mileage. Practical transportation, not a status symbol. Brandon's BMW X5 gleamed in the driveway next to Ashley's white Mercedes C300 convertible. Both cars detailed and spotless. Both leased through Harris Tech's corporate fleet program, a detail Brandon conveniently forgot when showing off to friends. The party was already in full swing when I arrived. Brandon was holding court on the back deck, gesturing dramatically while telling everyone about his innovative approaches to market penetration in the enterprise software space. His MBA vocabulary was impressive. His actual understanding of our business was superficial. "Uncle Bill," my nephew Jake called out from the pool area, "Brandon's telling us about his latest conquest at Harris Tech." His latest conquest. At my company. Ashley appeared at my elbow carrying 2 mimosas. Her smile was perfectly crafted for Instagram. "Oh, hi, Bill." Her voice had that tone. The one that said I wasn't really welcome at their party, but she'd tolerate my presence. "Thanks for hosting," I said. "Beautiful setup you have here." The setup was impressive. Professional catering from YO Ranch Steakhouse. Premium bar setup with top-shelf liquor. Hired bartender mixing craft cocktails. Probably $8,000 in party expenses, minimum. Well, we do try to maintain certain standards, Ashley replied, looking pointedly at my khaki pants and polo shirt. Image matters in Brandon's position. Brandon's position. Director of Innovation, a title I'd created to make him feel important while keeping him away from critical operations. Brandon approached with a beer in hand, wearing designer shorts that probably cost more than most people's weekly grocery budget. Dad, you remember my friend Tyler from business school, right? Tyler extended his hand with corporate precision. Nice to meet you, sir. Brandon tells me you're retired now. Not exactly retired, I started. Dad's semi-retired, Brandon interrupted smoothly. Still hangs around the office sometimes. Keeps busy with small projects. Hangs around. The office I'd built. That's nice, Tyler said with polite disinterest. Must be relaxing after running a small business for so many years. Harris Tech isn't exactly small, I said quietly. Ashley laughed, the sound sharp and dismissive. Oh, Bill's being modest. It's a cute little tech company, very quaint. Cute, little, quaint. The afternoon continued like this. Every conversation, Brandon positioned himself as the success story, while I played the role of retired father who'd helped out in the early days. The narrative was consistent, practiced, and completely false. Around 4 p.m., watching the expensive party unfold, I decided to address something that had been bothering me for months. The party expenses were clearly significant, and I'd provided the down payment for the house where it was happening. I pulled Brandon aside near the outdoor kitchen. Son, this is quite a spread. Must have been expensive to put together. Don't worry about it, Dad. His tone was dismissive, like I was questioning his financial management. I'm not worried, just thought maybe we could split the hosting costs. I did help with the down payment on this house after all. His expression changed instantly, from relaxed to defensive to angry. Excuse me? The family reunion expenses. We could share the costs. Dad, his voice got louder, this is my house. My party, my responsibility. Ashley materialized beside him like she'd been monitoring our conversation. What's wrong, babe? My father thinks we should split the costs of our own party. Seriously? Ashley's voice carried across the deck. Several conversations paused. Heads turned our way. I just thought it would be appropriate. You thought wrong, Brandon said, stepping closer. This isn't your house anymore. These aren't your friends. This isn't your party. My brother Greg stepped closer, sensing trouble brewing. His wife Susan stopped mid-sentence in her conversation with Linda. Brandon, I said calmly, I think we need to talk about respect and responsibility. Respect? Ashley laughed again, louder this time. That's rich coming from you. What's that supposed to mean? It means, Ashley said, pulling out her iPhone, maybe it's time someone told you the truth about your place in this family. The entire party was listening now. 25 family members and friends, all watching this conflict unfold in real time. Brandon's face was getting red. The beer wasn't helping his emotional control. You want to know about respect? Then stop acting like you own everything. I'm not acting like anything, son. Yes, you are. His voice cracked with emotion. You act like you built some empire, like we owe you something for every dollar you ever spent. I never said you owed me anything, but you think it. You think because you paid for things, you get to control everything forever. Tyler looked uncomfortable. Ashley's parents had stopped eating. My nephew Jake was staring at his feet. Brandon, Greg said firmly, maybe you should lower your voice. No, I'm tired of tiptoeing around Dad's feelings. He needs to hear this. Hear what? That you're embarrassing yourself, Brandon said, his words slightly slurred. This is my house, my party, my friends, my life. You're just the old guy who used to run a company. The words hit like physical blows. 27 years of sacrifice reduced to the old guy who used to run a company. Ashley was holding up her phone now, clearly recording. This is perfect content, she whispered to herself. You want to know what I really think? Brandon continued, beyond caring about consequences. I think you're jealous that I took your little hobby and turned it into something real. My hobby. the company that built everything he owned. Brandon, I said quietly, you need to apologize. Apologize? He laughed bitterly. For what? For being honest? For being disrespectful to your father? Disrespectful? He stepped even closer. You want to see disrespectful? That's when Greg moved. Brandon, stop. But it was too late. Brandon gathered saliva in his mouth and spat directly into my face. The entire party went dead silent. Ashley's laughter rang out like gunshots in the sudden quiet, her phone capturing every second of my humiliation. Oh my God, she squealed, practically dancing with excitement. I got it all on video. This is going to be amazing content. Spit ran down my right cheek. 25 family members stared in absolute shock. My brother Greg's face was white with fury. My sister Linda had her hand over her mouth. Jake looked like he was going to be sick. I pulled out my handkerchief slowly, wiped my face with deliberate calm, and looked directly at my son. Brandon, I said quietly, you've made your choice. Something in my tone made him take a step backward. For just a second, uncertainty flickered across his face. What's that supposed to mean? Ashley demanded, still filming. It means, I said, folding my handkerchief precisely, that actions have consequences. Tyler, Brandon's business school friend, stepped forward awkwardly. Mr. Harrison, maybe we should all just take a breath here. I'm perfectly calm, Tyler. I looked around the party. I think I'll head home now. Thank you for the hospitality. Greg grabbed my arm. Bill, wait. It's fine, Greg. Really. But something was shifting in the crowd. People were looking at me differently. Not with pity, but with something closer to curiosity. My nephew Jake found his voice. Uncle Bill, didn't you say something about government contracts once? The question seemed to come from nowhere. Brandon's face tightened. We do some work with various federal agencies, I said simply. What kind of agencies? Tyler asked, his business training kicking in. Ashley was still filming, but her expression had changed. Less triumphant, more uncertain. The kind that require security clearances, I said. Brandon stepped between us. Dad, maybe we should discuss this privately. It's okay, son. Nothing classified about mentioning we work with the Department of Defense. The words hit the party like a small explosion. Department of Defense, government contracts, security clearances. Tyler's eyes widened. Wait, your family company works with the Pentagon? Some projects, I said. Routine stuff, really. But it wasn't routine, and everyone suddenly sensed it. Ashley stopped recording, her phone lowering as she processed what I'd said. Brandon's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and I watched the color drain from his face. Everything okay? Ashley asked. It's nothing, Brandon said, but his voice was shaky. Just work stuff. The party tried to continue, but something fundamental had shifted. People were looking at me with new interest, asking different questions. Bill, my sister Linda said carefully, exactly what does Harris Tech do for the government? Cybersecurity solutions mostly, database protection, communications security. That sounds significant. Brandon kept checking his phone. Each time he looked at it, he seemed more troubled. Greg appeared at my side. Bill, I feel like there are things about your company I don't know. Probably, I said. I don't usually discuss work at family gatherings. Maybe you should. Ashley had moved closer to Brandon, whispering urgently. I caught fragments. Never told me. How big is... Pentagon contracts. Tyler was on his phone now, clearly researching something. When he looked up, his expression was completely different. Mr. Harrison, he said carefully, I'm finding some interesting information about Harris Tech Industries. Such as? SEC filings that show... Well, they show numbers that don't match what Brandon described. Brandon's face went pale. Tyler, maybe we should... The filings show Harris Tech Industries is valued at over $400 million. The party went quiet again. Different kind of quiet this time. They show you employ over 3,000 people across multiple states. Ashley looked like she'd been slapped. That's impossible. Brandon said... Brandon says a lot of things, I said quietly. Dad, please. Brandon's voice was pleading now. Can we talk privately? We'll talk soon, son, I promise. I walked to my Toyota Camry with 25 pairs of eyes following me. As I drove away, I could see the people clustered around Tyler's phone, reading whatever he'd found about my company. By the time I reached home, 3 missed calls were waiting on my phone, all from Brandon. I didn't return them. Instead, I went to my home office and began making other calls. To lawyers, to accountants, to people who'd been waiting years for me to finally set boundaries. The real conversation was going to happen tomorrow, at the place Brandon had never seen, the real headquarters of Harris Tech Industries. By 8 p.m. that Memorial Day evening, my phone was ringing constantly. Brandon had called 14 times, Ashley twice. Even Tyler had somehow gotten my number. I answered Tyler's call first. "Mr. Harrison, I hope you don't mind me calling. I got your number from your company website." "What can I do for you, Tyler?" "Sir, I spent the last 3 hours researching Harris Tech Industries. I need to apologize." "For what?" "For not understanding who I was talking to at that party. For treating you like, well, like Brandon described you." "How did Brandon describe me?" Tyler was quiet for a moment. "Like a retired small business owner who was living in the past. Like someone who'd built something modest and couldn't accept that his son had surpassed it." "And now?" "Now I'm looking at SEC filings that show Harris Tech Industries posted revenue of $230 million last year. I'm seeing Department of Defense contract awards worth tens of millions. I'm reading about partnerships with Lockheed Martin and Raytheon." "You've been busy. Mr. Harrison, why didn't you correct him? Why didn't you ever tell anyone the truth about what you built?" The question hung in the air. Why hadn't I? "Tyler, imagine you spent 30 years building something you were proud of. Then imagine your child was embarrassed by it. Would you force them to acknowledge it? Or would you hope they'd discover its value on their own?" I think I understand. Brandon chose embarrassment over curiosity. Now he's learning what he was actually embarrassed by. "Sir, can I ask you something else?" "Sure. Are you going to fire him?" I thought about that question for a long moment. "Tyler, Brandon has been working at one of our satellite development offices. He's never actually seen the real headquarters. He's never met our senior leadership team. He has no idea what we actually do or how we do it." "He doesn't know?" "He knows what he's chosen to know, which is almost nothing." Jesus. Tomorrow morning, he's going to learn everything. Then he'll have some decisions to make. After hanging up with Tyler, I called my lawyer, Margaret Walsh. She'd been with me for 15 years, handling everything from contract negotiations to family estate planning. "Margaret, I need you to prepare some documents for a meeting tomorrow morning." "What kind of documents, Bill?" "Brandon's employment agreement, the property deeds for his house, the lease agreements for both cars, the country club membership paperwork, everything that shows who actually owns what. Are you sure about this?" "I'm done enabling disrespect, Margaret. Prepare everything for a 9 a.m. meeting." "Where?" "Conference room Pentagon. At headquarters." "Bill, Brandon's never been to headquarters." "I know. It's time he saw what he's been dismissing as a hobby." By 10 p.m., the social media fallout was beginning. Ashley had posted a cryptic Instagram story. "When people show their true colors." But the comments weren't what she expected. "Girl, did you just disrespect someone who works with the Pentagon?" I Googled Harris Tech Industries. Your father-in-law is worth like $400 million. "Ashley, you might want to delete this." "Wait, is your husband's dad actually rich?" Ashley deleted the story 20 minutes after posting it. Brandon called again at 11 p.m. This time I answered. "Dad, we need to talk." "Yes, we do. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. "Can you come here? Ashley's really upset about what happened." "I'm not coming to your house, Brandon." "Then where?" "Harris Tech Industries, main headquarters, Building A, 15th floor." "Dad, what are you talking about? Harris Tech doesn't have 15 floors. I work there. It's a 3-story building." "No, son. You work at one of our satellite offices, our development campus in Richardson. You've never been to headquarters." Long silence. "That's impossible. Building A is at 2500 North Central Expressway, Suite 1500. Ask for the executive conference room." "Executive conference room?" "Margaret will meet you in the lobby at 9 a.m. Don't be late." "Dad, I don't understand what's happening." "You will tomorrow. And Brandon?" "Yeah?" Bring Ashley. She's going to want to see this. I hung up. The last call of the night came from Greg. Bill, what the hell happened after you left? What do you mean? Tyler spent 2 hours showing everyone articles about Harris Tech, government contracts, Pentagon partnerships, revenue numbers that don't make sense with how Brandon described your company. The numbers are accurate, Greg. Bill, are you telling me you're worth hundreds of millions of dollars? I'm telling you that Brandon is about to learn some things about his father that he's chosen to ignore. Oh, and Ashley? Ashley is about to learn that the man she's been mocking built everything she thinks she owns. Are you going to destroy him? I thought about that question. Greg, I'm going to teach him. Whether he survives the lesson depends entirely on his character. Tomorrow would reveal exactly how much character my son actually possessed. Tuesday morning, 6:00 a.m. My phone started ringing before sunrise. First call. Brandon. Voice shaking with panic. Dad, what the hell is happening? The repo men came at dawn. They took both cars. I was sitting in my home office, surrounded by corporate documents I'd been organizing since 4 a.m. Employment contracts, property deeds, loan agreements, corporate structure charts. Everything Brandon had never bothered to learn about his own life. Good morning, son. Don't good morning me. There were 2 tow trucks in our driveway at 5:30 a.m. Ashley's crying. The neighbors are asking questions. What did you do? We'll discuss everything at 9 a.m. Discuss what? I need answers now. My credit cards were declined when Ashley tried to buy coffee. The bank left 3 voicemails about our mortgage. What is happening to my life? Your life, Brandon? Let's talk about that. Dad, please, just tell me what's going on. Building A, 15th floor. Don't be late. I don't understand any of this. Harris Tech isn't even a 15-story building. No, son, the development campus where you work isn't 15 stories. Headquarters is. Silence. I could hear Ashley crying in the background. Come to 2500 North Central Expressway. Margaret will meet you in the lobby. Second call, 6:15 a.m. Tyler, Brandon's business school friend. Mr. Harrison, I hope it's not inappropriate to call this early. What can I do for you, Tyler? Sir, I spent all night researching your company. I found things that, well, they don't match anything Brandon ever told us. Such as? Government contracts worth over $200 million. Partnerships with every major defense contractor. Patents on cybersecurity systems used by the Pentagon. Mr. Harrison, you're not just successful. You're a major player in national security. We do important work, yes. Why didn't Brandon know? How could he not know? Tyler, people see what they choose to see. Brandon chose to see a small family business he was destined to inherit. He never asked about the full scope of what we do. But surely at some point, he decided my work was embarrassing rather than impressive. Once that narrative took hold, he stopped asking questions. Mr. Harrison, I need to ask you something, and I hope you don't take offense. Go ahead. Are you going to destroy him for what happened yesterday? I thought carefully about my answer. Tyler, I'm going to show Brandon the truth about his life. What he does with that truth will determine his future. Would it be inappropriate for me to ask for a job? Send your resume to Margaret Walsh. We'll find something appropriate. Thank you, sir, and Mr. Harrison? Yes? What Brandon did yesterday was inexcusable. You deserve better from your son. By 8:30 a.m., my legal team had assembled in Conference Room Pentagon on the 15th floor of Harris Tech Tower. Margaret Walsh, my attorney for 15 years. James Chen, our corporate accountant. Sandra Martinez, VP of Human Resources, all carrying thick folders of documents. At exactly 9:00 a.m., I watched on security cameras as Brandon and Ashley entered our marble lobby for the first time in either of their lives. The lobby was designed to impress. 30-foot ceilings, original artwork by Texas artists, a directory listing departments they'd never heard of, government relations, floor 12, defense contracts, floor 8, cybersecurity research, floor 14. And behind the reception desk hung a framed Forbes magazine article from 2019, Harris Tech Industries, the defense contractor you've never heard of. Brandon stood motionless, reading the article. Ashley was taking pictures with her phone, her expression shifting from defiance to confusion to something approaching fear. Margaret met them at the elevator bank. "Mr. Brandon, Mrs. Harrison, your father is waiting on the 15th floor." 15 floors, Ashley whispered as the elevator climbed. "He said it was a small company." The elevator opened directly into our executive reception area. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Dallas. Conference rooms named after major contracts: Pentagon, Sentinel, Guardian, Shield. Brandon walked into conference room Pentagon like a man entering an alternate universe. The conference table seated 20 people. Behind my chair, wall-mounted displays showed our current projects. Project Sentinel, 47.2. Project Guardian, 23 dies, 8 meta. Project Shield, 89.4. Project into Fortress, 156.7. "Dad," Brandon's voice was barely audible. "Please, sit down, both of you." Ashley was staring at everything, trying to process what she was seeing. "Bill, what is this place?" "This is Harris Tech Industries, Ashley. The real Harris Tech, where I've worked 18 hours a day for 27 years while you thought I was running a cute little tech company." Brandon collapsed into a chair. "I don't understand any of this." "You worked at our Richardson Development Campus, son. Satellite Office C. We have 12 satellite offices across 4 states. You've been developing minor software updates for existing products. Important work, but representing maybe 2% of what this company actually does." I opened the first folder on the table. Let's start with the basics. Harris Tech Industries, founded 1997. Current valuation, according to our last private equity assessment, $420 million. Ashley made a choking sound. "We employ 3,200 people. We hold active contracts with the Department of Defense, NASA, the Department of Homeland Security, and 18 Fortune 500 companies." Brandon was staring at the wall displays. "Those contract amounts. Our real son, Project Fortress alone, is worth more than most companies' entire annual revenue." "But why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you bring me here?" "Brandon, I've been trying to bring you here for 5 years. Every time I suggested you visit headquarters, you said you were too busy with real work at the development campus." Margaret placed additional documents on the table. "Your son's employment file, Mr. Harrison." I opened it. "Brandon Harrison, hired January 2022. Position, Junior Development Associate. Salary, $85,000 annually." "Junior Development Associate?" Ashley's voice was sharp. "His business cards say Director of Innovation." "Well, I had those printed for him," I said quietly, "because I thought a better title would help his self-confidence." Brandon put his head in his hands. "Oh, God. Your actual position in this company, son, is entry-level. You report to Janet Morrison, who reports to Division Chief Sandra Martinez, who reports to VP of Operations Michael Thompson, who reports to me." "I'm not even middle management," Brandon whispered. "No, you're not." Ashley was frantically scrolling through her phone. "Brandon, the internet says your dad is worth—" "What does it say, Ashley?" "It says his personal net worth is estimated between $200 and $300 million. The room went silent except for the hum of air conditioning. "Dad," Brandon finally said, "why didn't you just tell me the truth?" "Because I wanted you to earn the truth, son. I wanted you to ask questions, to show interest, to demonstrate that you were ready for real responsibility. And instead? Instead, you decided I was embarrassing. You decided my life's work was a hobby. You decided the man who built all this was someone to mock at parties." Ashley was crying now, understanding finally dawning on her. "Yesterday," I continued, "you spat in the face of a man who employs over 3,000 people and manages contracts worth hundreds of millions of dollars. You did it in front of witnesses, and your wife filmed it for social media. I was drunk. I was stupid. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix humiliation, Brandon. Sorry doesn't rebuild respect. What do you want me to do?" I opened the final folder, the thick one. "That depends entirely on what kind of man you choose to be." I spread the contents of the final folder across the conference table like a poker player revealing a royal flush. Each document represented a choice Brandon had never realized he was making. "Let's start with your house. I said, placing the first set of papers in front of him. 6847 Meadow Creek Drive, Plano, Texas. Purchased May 15th, 2021. Purchase price $650,000. Brandon picked up the deed, his hands visibly shaking. Down payment $130,000, transferred from Harris Tech corporate account 4471B on May 10th, 2021. Monthly mortgage payments guaranteed by Harris Tech Industries corporate credit line. Ashley leaned over to read the documents. But it's in our names. The deed is in your names, Ashley. The financial responsibility has always been mine. Brandon, read page 7, section C. He found the section, his face going white as he read. Loan callable by guarantor upon 30 days' notice or breach of family agreements. What constitutes breach of family agreements? I asked. Public disrespect, failure to honor family values, or behavior detrimental to family reputation, he read in a whisper. Yesterday you spat on me in front of 25 witnesses. Your wife filmed it. Which category does that fall under? All of them, Brandon whispered. The loan was called at 11:47 p.m. yesterday evening. You have 30 days to secure independent financing or vacate the property. Ashley started crying harder. Brandon, you said we owned that house. You live in that house, Ashley. There's a difference between living somewhere and owning it. I placed the next set of documents on the table. Your vehicles. BMW X5, the lease initiated June 2021 through Harris Tech Corporate Fleet Program. Mercedes C300 convertible, same program. Both vehicles legally owned by Harris Tech Industries, allocated to Brandon Harrison as employment benefit. Employment benefit? Yes. The cars were never yours, son. They were company cars, provided as part of your compensation package. Employment benefits that can be revoked for cause. What's the cause? Violation of company respect policy, outlined in your employee handbook, page 43. Employees shall maintain professional conduct and family harmony as determined by senior management. Margaret handed me another folder. Brandon's complete employment file. Your employment contract, Brandon, signed January 8th, 2022. Let me read the relevant section. Employee acknowledges that continued employment is contingent upon maintaining professional standards and family harmony as determined by the majority shareholder. Who's the majority shareholder? Ashley asked, though she clearly already knew. I am. I own 78.4% of Harris Tech Industries. Brandon owns 0%. Zero? Zero. He's an employee, not an owner. A well-paid employee with good benefits, but an employee nonetheless. I opened his personnel file completely. Brandon Harrison. Start date, January 8th, 2022. Position, Junior Development Associate. Direct Supervisor, Janet Morrison. Security clearance, none. Access level, satellite offices only. Parking assignment, Richardson Campus, Level 2. I don't even have access to this building? No. Your key card works at 3 of our 12 satellite locations. You've never had access to headquarters, classified projects, government contracts, or senior management meetings. Ashley was scrolling through her phone frantically. Brandon, your LinkedIn profile says you're Director of Innovation at a major tech firm. I created that title to help his self-confidence, I said. His actual title is Junior Development Associate. His actual salary is $85,000 annually. But the lifestyle we've been living costs way more than $85,000 a year, Ashley protested. Yes, it does. The difference has been subsidized through company benefits, family assistance, and my personal generosity. I pulled out a calculator and began adding figures. House payments guaranteed by me, $3,200 monthly. Car leases through company fleet, $1,800 monthly. Country club membership, $1,250 monthly. Credit card bills paid through corporate accounts, average $2,800 monthly. I looked up at them. Your actual lifestyle costs approximately $10,000 monthly. Brandon's take-home salary covers about 45% of that. Where did the rest come from? Ashley asked. Me? Through various corporate benefits and family subsidies that I now realize were enabling rather than helping. Dad, please, tell me what I need to do to fix this. I sat back in my chair, studying my son's face for signs of genuine understanding versus panic-driven desperation. Brandon, yesterday you publicly humiliated me while your wife filmed it for entertainment. You called my life's work a hobby. You spat in my face. I was drunk. I was angry. I wasn't thinking clearly. Those are explanations, not excuses. Alcohol reveals character. It doesn't create it. What do you want me to do? I want you to understand what you did. You didn't just disrespect your father. You disrespected the founder and majority owner of a company that employs thousands of people and manages hundreds of millions in government contracts. Ashley was taking notes on her phone, probably calculating financial damage. You have two choices, son. Choice one, accept that your behavior was unacceptable. Agree to family counseling. Start over at entry level with appropriate supervision and work your way up based on merit. And choice two? Choice two, you resign from Harris Tech Industries, find alternative employment, secure independent housing, and learn to support your lifestyle without my assistance. If I choose option one, what happens? You'll live in a modest apartment while you save money for an appropriate house purchase. You'll drive a practical used car. You'll earn every promotion through demonstrated competence and character. And my salary? Entry level, $38,000 annually, same as any new hire. Ashley gasped. 38,000? We can't live on 38,000. Then you'll need to adjust your lifestyle, Ashley, or find ways to supplement the income through your own employment. I don't have any job skills. Then you'll need to develop some. Brandon was quiet for a long moment. When he looked up, something in his expression had changed. Dad, if I choose option one, do you think you could ever forgive me for yesterday? Forgiveness and trust are different things, son. I can forgive your behavior. Rebuilding trust will take time and consistent action. But it's possible. Everything's possible, Brandon. The question is whether you're willing to do the work required. He looked at Ashley, who was still frantically calculating on her phone. I need to think about this. You have 24 hours to decide. After that, I'll assume you've chosen option two. And then? And then you'll need to find your own way in the world, without my assistance. The room fell silent as the weight of real consequences settled over both of them. The aftermath unfolded like dominoes falling in slow motion, each consequence triggering the next in an inevitable cascade. Tuesday afternoon brought the first wave of social fallout. By 2 p.m., my phone was ringing constantly with calls from family members who'd witnessed Sunday's incident and spent Monday night researching Harris Tech Industries. My brother Greg called first, his voice heavy with something between apology and amazement. Bill, I owe you a massive apology. For what, Greg? For not shutting Brandon down months ago. For letting him treat you like some retired nobody. For not asking better questions about your business. You're not responsible for parenting my son, Greg. Maybe not, but I am responsible for respecting my brother. I should have realized that someone doesn't accidentally build a company with government contracts and hundreds of employees. Greg's call was followed by 8 others from family members who'd been at the party. Each conversation followed a similar pattern. Shock at discovering the truth about Harris Tech, embarrassment at having believed Brandon's version of events, and anger at how I'd been treated. My nephew Jake left a particularly touching voicemail. Uncle Bill, I'm really sorry about that stupid joke I made about email. I didn't know you were basically running a tech empire. Can you forgive me? Also, do you have any internship programs? I'm studying computer science at UT. The professional consequences rippled outward faster than I'd expected. Tyler, Brandon's business school friend, called Tuesday evening. Mr. Harrison, I hope this isn't inappropriate, but I'd like to formally apply for a position at Harris Tech Industries. What kind of position interests you? Honestly, sir, anything entry level. I want to learn from someone who built something real instead of someone who inherited a title. Send your resume to Margaret. We'll find an appropriate role. Mr. Harrison, can I ask you something? Sure. Why didn't you ever correct Brandon when he misrepresented your company at business school events? I thought about that question carefully. Tyler, imagine you spent 30 years building something beautiful. Then imagine your child was embarrassed by it rather than proud of it. Would you force them to appreciate it, or would you hope they'd discover its value themselves? I think I understand, sir. Brandon chose embarrassment over curiosity. Exactly. Now he's learning what he was actually embarrassed by. Tyler's call was the first of 17 job inquiries I received that week. Word had spread through Brandon's MBA network that his retired father was actually a major defense contractor. Resume submissions increased by 400% in 3 days. The social media consequences were swift and brutal. Ashley's Instagram, which had grown to 12,000 followers through lifestyle content, began hemorrhaging followers immediately. Comments on her recent post shifted dramatically. Girl, did you just disrespect someone who owns a 400 million company? Imagine filming yourself laughing while your husband spits on his billionaire father. Ashley, you might want to delete your whole account. This is what happens when you marry for money, but don't research the family. By Wednesday, Ashley had made her Instagram private and stopped posting entirely. The business consequences extended beyond Brandon to his colleagues at our Richardson satellite office. Word spread quickly that the company's director of innovation had never actually seen headquarters and had no security clearance for classified projects. 3 of the senior developers Brandon had hired in February submitted resignation letters Wednesday morning. They'd specifically applied to Harris Tech to work on cutting-edge defense technology. Instead, they'd been assigned routine maintenance tasks at a suburban office park. We feel misled about the scope and importance of our roles, their joint resignation letter stated. We were told we'd be working on innovative projects with someone who understood the company's direction. Instead, we've been doing basic updates under someone who apparently doesn't know what the company actually does. The psychological consequences were perhaps the most severe. Brandon called Wednesday evening, his voice hollow with something between grief and shock. Dad, Ashley wants a separation. I'm sorry to hear that. She says I misrepresented our financial situation, that she married me under false pretenses. What false pretenses? She thought she was marrying money. Turns out she was marrying someone whose money could disappear overnight if his father got tired of his behavior. And how does that make you feel about Ashley? Long pause. Like maybe I married someone who didn't actually love me. Maybe you did, son. Dad, if I choose option 1, the counseling, starting over, earning my way back, do you think Ashley would stay with me through that process? Brandon, do you want her to stay if she's only there for lifestyle and social status? Another long pause. No, I guess I don't. Then you have your answer about Ashley. It's just, everything I thought was real turns out to be fake. The house, the cars, my job title, my salary, my wife's love, all of it was built on your generosity, not my achievement. Yes, it was. That's a hard thing to face. And the hardest things to face are usually the most important things to understand. Thursday brought the community consequences. Preston Trail Golf Club, where I'd maintained Brandon and Ashley's membership, called for a meeting. Mr. Harrison, the membership director, said, "We've received reports about an incident involving your family that was filmed and shared on social media." What kind of reports? Reports that your son physically assaulted you at a family gathering while your daughter-in-law filmed it for entertainment. That's accurate. Mr. Harrison, we have standards for member conduct that extend to family members. Physical assault against other members, even within families, violates those standards. I understand. We're suspending your son and daughter-in-law's membership privileges pending a formal review. The irony wasn't lost on me. Brandon had been so concerned about maintaining social status at the country club. Now his behavior had cost him access entirely. Friday afternoon brought the most significant consequence. Brandon showed up at Harris Tech headquarters wearing a suit I'd never seen before, a modest outfit from Men's Warehouse that he'd bought with his own money. Dad, I've made my decision. And? I choose option 1, family counseling, starting over, earning my way back. Are you certain? I spent 4 days thinking about who I want to be versus who I've become. I don't like who I've become. Margaret handed him an employee handbook and a new key card, this one programmed for entry-level access only. Your supervisor is Janet Morrison, I said. She's been with us for 8 years. She doesn't know you're my son, and I'd prefer to keep it that way initially. Good. I want to earn this based on my work, not my DNA. Your starting salary is $38,000 annually. Your title is Development Associate Trainee. Your first assignment is learning our security protocols and basic project management systems. What about Ashley? What about her? She filed for divorce yesterday. She's demanding half of our assets. What assets? Exactly. Her lawyer called your lawyer asking about hidden assets. Apparently, they think there must be money somewhere. And Margaret told them I legally own about $300 in checking account balance and a 10-year-old Xbox. For the first time in months, Brandon smiled. Not the arrogant smirk I'd grown tired of, but something genuine and self-aware. It's funny, I thought losing everything would feel terrible. Instead, it feels like finally telling the truth. How so? For the first time in my adult life, I know exactly what I've earned versus what was given to me. I looked at my son, really looked at him, and saw something I hadn't seen in years. Humility, genuine curiosity, the beginning of actual character. Ready to start learning who you really are? Yeah, Dad, I think I am. The real work was just beginning. 8 months later, I'm sitting in my office on a crisp December morning, watching Brandon through the security cameras. He's at his cubicle on the third floor, arriving 20 minutes early as he has every day since June. He's working on database security protocols for a Veterans Affairs contract. Routine work, but he approaches it with the same focus I remember from his childhood when he built elaborate Lego constructions. The transformation hasn't been easy or fast. The first 2 months were brutal. Ashley's divorce proceedings concluded in July with a settlement that shocked her attorney. After demanding half of Brandon's assets, she received exactly what he legally owned, $347 in checking account balance and a gaming console. Her lawyer had pushed for alimony until learning that Brandon's salary was $38,000 annually. Your client married a junior-level employee, not an heir, Margaret explained to Ashley's attorney. There are no hidden assets because there never were any assets. Everything she assumed he owned actually belonged to his father's company. Ashley moved back to Houston to live with her parents. Her final Instagram post was a bitter quote about fake people and false promises, with no acknowledgement of her own role in the destruction. She'd learned nothing from the experience. Brandon took the divorce harder than I'd expected, but not for the reasons I feared. Dad, the worst part isn't losing Ashley, he told me during one of our early family counseling sessions. The worst part is realizing I became someone she could love only when I was lying about who I was. Dr. Patricia Williams, our family therapist, leaned forward. What do you mean by that, Brandon? Ashley fell in love with a successful businessman who owned a house and expensive cars. When it turned out I was actually a junior employee living on my father's generosity, she left immediately. How does that make you feel about yourself? Like I spent 3 years pretending to be someone I wasn't, even to myself. The therapy sessions revealed depths I hadn't expected. Brandon had been struggling with imposter syndrome since college, always sensing that his achievements didn't match his lifestyle, but never understanding why. I knew something was wrong, he told Dr. Williams during our third session. I'd see my business school classmates working 90-hour weeks to afford studio apartments while I was driving a BMW and living in a house with granite countertops. Ashley kept pushing me to spend more, achieve more, show more success. I felt like nothing I actually did was enough. So you compensated by diminishing your father's achievements? Yeah. If I could make his accomplishments seem smaller, mine seem bigger by comparison. The work integration proved challenging but revealing. Janet Morrison, Brandon's supervisor, didn't know about our family connection but quickly noticed his unusual attitude. There's something different about the new trainee, she told Margaret during a routine evaluation. He asks better questions than most people with years of experience. He volunteers for difficult projects. He stays late without being asked. By September, Brandon had earned his first legitimate performance review. Janet rated him exceeds expectations in 4 categories and recommended him for accelerated training. Mr. Morrison, Janet said during the review meeting, this employee shows exceptional potential for someone at his experience level. Brandon showed me the review that evening, his face glowing with something I hadn't seen in years. Dad, this felt better than any grade I got in business school. Why? Because I earned it from someone who didn't have to be nice to me, someone who judged me purely on my work. The living situation stabilized gradually. Brandon found a one-bedroom apartment in Arlington, furnished it entirely from thrift stores and garage sales. When I offered to help with furniture or deposits, he declined every time. I need to know I can do this myself, he said. For the first time in my life, I want to know what I can actually achieve without assistance. His transportation was a 2016 Honda Civic he bought with his own savings after 4 months of taking the bus to work. Used, reliable, practical, everything his previous cars hadn't been. The family dynamics healed slowly but genuinely. My brother Greg invited Brandon to his birthday party in October, the first family gathering since Memorial Day. Uncle Bill, my nephew Jake said privately, Brandon's completely different now. How so? He asked real questions about my college plans, wanted to know about my classes, my goals, my concerns about student loans. Before, he just talked about himself and his achievements. The Thanksgiving gathering was the real test. Same extended family, minus Ashley, everyone walking on careful ground at first. Brandon addressed the elephant in the room directly. Before we eat, I need to say something to everyone here, he began, standing near the head of the table. 8 months ago, I disrespected my father at our Memorial Day gathering. I embarrassed our family. I acted like someone I hope never to become again. The room was silent, everyone remembering that terrible afternoon. I'm working to become someone worthy of being in this family again. Someone you can be proud of rather than embarrassed by. Greg started clapping first. Soon everyone joined in. Welcome back, nephew, Greg said, his voice thick with emotion. Last month brought the most significant milestone. Brandon asked for a meeting with me, showing up in my office after hours. Dad, I want to discuss something with you. What's on your mind? I've been thinking about the house, the one on Meadow Creek Drive. My heart sank slightly. Brandon, no, not what you're thinking. I want to know if I can buy it back. Buy it back? At full market rate, with a real mortgage from a real bank. I want to earn it properly this time. I studied his face, looking for traces of the old entitlement. Found none. Brandon, it would take you years to save enough for a down payment on a house that expensive. I know. I'm okay with that. Why not just buy a different house, something more affordable? Because that house represents something I need to reclaim, not through inheritance or family connections, but through my own work and character. Today is December 15th. Brandon just completed his probationary period and earned promotion to Project Associate, a real title based on demonstrated competence. Janet Morrison recommended the advancement without knowing about our family relationship. Tomorrow, I'm offering Brandon his first significant opportunity, Assistant Project Manager on a Department of Veterans Affairs. Database modernization contract, not because he's my son, but because he's proven himself ready. The old Brandon would have expected the promotion. The new Brandon will have to decide if he wants it and whether he's prepared for the responsibility. That choice will tell us everything about who he's truly become. If you've made it this far through this story, thank you for listening. Sometimes the people we love most teach us the hardest lessons about respect, boundaries, and what we're willing to tolerate. Sometimes everything has to disappear before it can be rebuilt on solid ground. What's your story about setting boundaries with family? How do you handle it when love isn't enough to excuse behavior? I genuinely like to hear your thoughts in the comments below.